Hi everyone, welcome to the InstructLab community meeting for November 5th, 2024, also known as Election Day in the US. First of all, I want to thank Dominic for hosting most of the meetings last month. There was a lot of great content. I tried to play them back at 1.5 speed so I can catch up on what y'all have discussed. Thanks for that. And I saw some of you briefly last week at last week's meeting. I was kind of running around the All Things Open venue. It was really cool to share InstructLab with a lot of people who are interested in what we're doing. So but before I get on with some of the feedback from there, I will, of course, go through the housekeeping items. As if you are new here, I'm going through this if you're new here. If not, you probably have heard this before, but nonetheless, all our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Community Code of Conduct. So please be nice to each other. All the meetings are recorded and will be posted in the InstructLab YouTube channel. I have been trying to catch up with the last couple of weeks' meetings and uploading them as we speak. If you prefer not to be on camera, you are free to join with your cameras off, and or you can even dial in via phone. And to ask questions, please raise your hand. But if you're on the phone, it's okay to interrupt at appropriate times. And of course, you can also use the real-time chat feature in Google Meet to ask your questions or provide responses or discussions. And we will publish the chat transcript after the meeting. And finally, there's a list at the end of the meeting minutes for you to add your name and GitHub profile handles, but it's up to you to add to that. Feel free to do so if you like. All right, let's get on with today's agenda. First of all, the last 2 weeks, as we said, some of us have been fortunate enough to present at IBM Tech Exchange 2 weeks ago, as well as All Things Open in Raleigh last week. So we have there have been a lot of comments, feedback. I tried to share some of that on the social channels. You can take a look at our social on X, on LinkedIn, and so on. But if you know more, of course, feel free to ping me to amplify those. But as you can see from some pictures and comments, that's a lot of good engagement and activities around the project. It's quite different, obviously, the two events, IBM Tech Exchange versus All Things Open. The latter of which we get more questions about what is InstructLab in the first place, because many of them have not heard about the project. So we get a chance to kind of really talk through the project more, the idea of what InstructLab is and what we're trying to do. Whereas in Tech Exchange, more people are familiar with it, but we get to also, we had a full lab that they can run through InstructLab, the demo, as well as ask more in-depth questions. JJ or Kara, for those of you who have been at the event, would you like to comment on it, say something? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. So just to pair it with what Carol said, the engagement was extremely high. There's a lot of people who were very, very interested in the InstructLab project. There was, as expected, the majority of conversations I had were around how do I start? Because the idea of it is awesome for so many people, but the ramp up is the challenge, especially from the open source side. I say that in many other meetings, but we actually had people who are like, this is really cool. Oh, I know nothing about Python. Oh, where am I? Like, how do I do this? Do you have a Node version? No, sorry. So there was a little bit of a mismatch there, but it's okay. we got people engaged, we got people interested, and I saw a gambit of people who were willing to sit with me. Like, for instance, ATO, there's a gentleman named Steve, who basically spent the whole day with me in the lounge, just doing some mod programming, which was really cool. And then I had some people from a rather large financial institution who wanted everything to be spoon-fed to them, which was a complete opposite of someone sitting there trying to learn how to do it compared to give me the exact recipe so I can implement this without any questions, which is expected. I mean, we're a new project, but it's more reason for us to focus on ramp up time so we can help rebuild this community.
Thanks,
And
Jason. Yeah, please,
adding
Kat.
on to that, I would say that the other piece was I got a lot of questions around what would be the use case for the enterprise, or, you know, if I'm doing all these steps that I'm not necessarily understanding the why would I want to do, why would I want to put this type of effort in if it's not something that is easy or turnkey. So so I think we've all kind of talked about use cases, and we've talked about kind of tweaking our messaging and reframing it to really help users understand why they would want to be involved with the project and use InstructLab.
Yes, indeed. Also, the recording for the talk that JJ and I did, I lost track. It was not available yet, but I'll share that when it's available. But also, we had great feedback from the talk. There were people coming to the lounge after that to ask questions because it was at the end of day one, I believe. And then, after that, as well as day two, there were people who came by and said, "Hey, we saw your talk," and then they have more interest and questions. So I think it was effective in sharing about InstructLab. So thanks to all who have helped in one way or other. For example, also at Tech Exchange, we had the lab, which I think Grant's team helped to put together. So that all came together really well. All right, let's go on since we do have quite a few agenda items. I think Ahmed shared this tutorial on InstructLab UI, which is really cool. Please take a look and share that as much as possible, because there's a lot of great work done in the UI, and hopefully that will also help people to kind of make contribution to InstructLab community build easier. And I think this one, Nathan, did you bring up this formalized InstructLab change and enhancement proposals?
Yeah, I brought it up. I didn't open it originally. It was Christian Himes opened it originally back in July. But I was reviewing the dev docs repo the last week, and I came across this, and this feels like something that I think we should do. I'm not exactly sure, like, if it's up to the oversight committee or how we get this to be part of the governance, but I figured the first good step would just be to bring it up in this meeting. We have a lot of we have a good framework, I think, for processes around this, but with the dev docs and all, but this is sort of a formalized version of that. And Christian has examples here. I'm only really familiar with PEP, but like PEP is very prominent in Python and used for governance in Python, which is built Python a fairly successful project. And yeah, so it seemed like something that I think we're getting to a good state with this project where we've cleaned up a lot of stuff in the repo. We have some maturity, and we have some, at least in the CLI, I've seen more upstream contributors, which has been awesome to see. So something like this seemed like something that was worth bringing up again and making sure it had some attention. I commented on it back in July, but I don't think anyone else has looked at it, so I wanted to bring it up in this form.
Yeah, thanks to bring this to our notice. Anyone has any suggestion of how it's best to get started? We probably should also talk to Christian about it, since he has the main idea to work on it. If not, I'll take action to Ping Christian. All right. Any other comments? Thanks, Nathan. A quick, how to say, heads up on, we have a mock-up for the InstructLab plushie that we are hoping to order next year, perhaps, for events next year. There's a mock-up, the picture of it on the Slack channel, the community channel on Slack, so feel free to take a look.
I saw it in person and it's really cute.
Yes, the one, Lisa, you saw in person has the ears kind of look, almost half the people who saw it in person at All Things Open said it looked like a koala, so we're trying to reduce that. So the new mock-up has the ears kind of more droopy, more like, you know, I guess more like a puppy maybe, but hopefully that's less koala-like and more puppy-like. So please take a look and comment if you wish to. All right. I believe there's a picture on it on Twitter or something that we posted that was the one from All Things Open. All right. So next we have the call for papers for FOSDEM Open. There's many dev rooms, not just the AI one, but maybe JJ would like to just pitch a little bit for the AI room.
Oh yeah. So I have the privilege of being on the CFP committee for the low-level AI engineering and hacking room of FOSDEM. It is going to be targeted for the more plumbing aspect of AI and open source, instead of the 10,000-foot view of what AI is. They'd like to talk about things other than PyTorch and other than CUDA, which, if you have ideas around open sourcey stuff that is not standard, like Llama CCP, things like that, that is what they are targeting for getting acceptances for the room. It is compared to last year. This is coming in a little bit different angle than FOSDEM, but it is an opportunity to really get into the deepness of this, which will be good. If you have a chance to be there, it'd be wonderful, and I'm looking forward to it. It's, as a old mentor of mine said, FOSDEM is like boot camp for nerds. Everyone's smelly, but you'll come out with some of the best friends you'll ever have in your career. Everybody needs to go at least once. So if you can get there, I strongly suggest it.
I would add a plus 100 to that. I've been at FOSDEM for past 10 years or so, perhaps, and yeah, I'm an old nerd, but you know, I enjoy every FOSDEM thoroughly. So I encourage those who have not had the experience to definitely, you know, submit a talk and attend if you can. And there's also other dev rooms, like I said, for example, maybe something which is not necessarily suited for the AI dev room. You can, you know, there's like Python, there's usually a UI UX one. I don't know if there's one this year, but you know, there's also many ways to frame your talk that could be more relevant to other dev rooms. There's a community dev room as well, so definitely take a look at the different possibilities. And well, don't do this too you know, much, but you can actually submit similar talks to multiple dev rooms. Just, you know, try to modify the abstract to suit the different dev rooms. So you know, just to increase our chances of getting accepted. So all right. Next we have, all right, a new CLI release. I have not had a chance to follow up on these, so I would love to hear from Charlie and Nathan about the new release.
Charlie, would you like to go? Perhaps I could.
Sure. I mean, this one was kind of minor. There's, I think,
They're all
one.
minor, you know. It's white
Yeah.
streams.
Yeah, yeah. But there's one fix in this one. So there was a bug that snuck in that changed the llama CPP constant string that we use for people to specify which backend they want to use for serving. It switched from llama dash CPP to llama underscore CPP somehow. So we switched it back because it was causing issues because one part of the code expected llama dash CPP and the other part expected llama underscore. So we just switched it back to what it was, cut a release, and that's the only change in there. Yeah, Nathan, anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I think from a very high level, we had a lot of like tech debt addressing and some optimizations that were made, some updates to the README. Shout out Kelly Brown for a lot of that work that just merged this morning, actually. So it's a great time to upgrade and try out the latest version of InstructLab. There's a lot of fit and finish that's going on here, and we are planning 0.21 sooner than typically. It's actually going to be out hopefully in the next 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that. And there's some exciting new features coming with that one. One of which is system profiles that Charlie has been diligently working on, and perhaps would like to share some of his passion and excitement for.
Yeah, thanks Nathan for that nice lead up there. I just wanted to give a heads up on what system profiles are, because you might, if you go and install the main branch right now, for example, you'll see some really different UX. We currently have training profiles which apply basically only for NVIDIA GPUs, and it's just for the training portion of your config. But we are going to be implementing, / have already mostly implemented, the concept of a system profile, which is basically an entire config file for detected hardware. The ones that we have so far are pretty much every M series chip, every NVIDIA GPU that we currently support. We have a CPU for AMD and Intel profile, and I think that's pretty much it. We're working on adding AMD GPU ones and Intel GPU ones, but the hope is that you'll be able to pip install InstructLab 21, and you'll just be able to run iLab config in it, and then you'll probably have to specify very few, if any, flags every time you run a command. So your config will have the exact setup you need to run most of them, except for the very specific things like the data paths that change every time you do a run. So I wanted to give people a heads up, and they can go try it out if they pip install from the main branch. And another thing I wanted to say about the 21 release is that we'll probably be doing alpha releases relatively soon as we get these major features in, just to exercise the code and let people use it in a published manner, because there's a lot of big UX changes going into this release. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, thanks for that. Something to look forward to something to do for Thanksgiving holidays while we overdose on turkey, right? So let's see, plan to be released. Okay, great. Is there, oh yes, for the CLI meeting on Thursdays, I think the last time we talked about switching them, that's not gonna happen anymore. It's gonna be Tuesdays community meeting and Thursdays CLI meetings. So no need for further calendar changes. I will be helping to host the CLI meetings, but please make sure that you have at least somebody from the team present, so I won't be able, because I won't be able to, talk about a lot of the details. So yeah, I'll just make sure that like the recording and everything is taken care of. So yes, please also attend the CLI meetings, everyone. Cool. Any more comments on this topic? Okay, moving on, we have the InstructLab docs repo. Ali, would you like to lead us on that?
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time yesterday looking into Sphinx a little bit more and looking into work Christian had done. It seemed like he laid a lot of the groundwork for being able to document all the config variables, or like having Autodoc take all the config variables out of Pydantic I think that would be super cool to look at or to merge in, and I'm gonna look into that over the course of the week. I'm not sure how we get those document pages on the main InstructLab site, but I figure just one thing at a time. The other one is I don't know if there's any Sphinx infrastructure already laid for some of the libraries, like the SDG training and eval repos, but I was going to also look into that too. And maybe Nathan knows this, but there might already be.
No, I only knew that there was already something for the CLI.
JJ, this is probably something I don't know if you had a chance to check out last week's minutes, but this was something brought up last week, and since you did the majority of the work on docs.instruct-lab.ai, would you like to comment on the docs site and how perhaps this integration could happen?
Shrug emoji. I think Ollie and I just need to sit down and talk about it.
Okay. Yes, Carol.
So we met with the technical marketing team. I don't know if anybody, Taylor or someone else from Grant's team is on the call, but one of the things that we had discussed was that their team would help drive that doc site. So let's make sure the trifecta is connected.
Can we get some members of that team to attend this meeting?
They do. They might be traveling this week. Or they
I feel like
have.
I don't usually see them. I could be wrong though.
I had a question on the docs.
Yes, Oleg.
Do we have a like a defined solution that we're married to at this point?
I don't believe so, JJ. Ollie?
So yeah, the history behind this is there was a huge gap between the readmes that we had and the main website we had. And when people would ask, "Hey, how do I do this thing?" and then I'd send them to the readmes, they'd tape over, flip, and walk away. So no one was creating it, so I decided to go do it myself. And then I just created docs.instruct-lab.ai. I copy pasted a bunch of stuff into it and tried to create something that lives between the doc site, or the readmes, which will be iterated quickly, and then like the general stuff of like how to get started or how to actually do it that was not exactly static, but enough to not to need to know every single flag in the CLI. But you need to know this flag because this is the flag that actually does the thing that you need to know, and kind of live there. I've kept it up to date as best as I can, but obviously there's a lot of changes happening on the readmes, and unfortunately the markdown that we use inside of GitHub doesn't translate perfectly over to the markdown in mkdocs material, so we can't just like copy paste it over. For instance, like the callouts, the formatting is a little bit different. So we would actually have to sit there and change those things around. The ultimate goal was for us to be able to remove a lot of the README informations from some of the other repos like community and even a getting started guide, because we shouldn't have that in two different places, right? We should have everything located in one location where this is all the information you need to know to at least get all the information about the project and all the information about how to get started. If you need imagine the readmes being the man pages, right? And then this being the tutorial and the project overview. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. I'm looking at the docs right now. They actually look really beautiful. What I was going to bring up is, so I feel like a project that we are structured very similarly to is Hugging Face, and like their doc sites is very nice in that like they have a very consistent theme, and the way that you would access like every single piece of documentation, like how we would have libraries, like that all is in a very consistent format, and it just looks really beautiful. So I was gonna say, I really like what you actually put together here. What would we need to do to make it so that every repo is utilizing the same thing and it is built in like a consistent manner?
Cool.
No, I was asking.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did the thing, right?
Gotcha.
I just did the thing.
Okay. It sounds like we need more research, but all I was going to say is we should probably have what you've created on pretty much every repo.
All right. I think Charlie, did you have something? You raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to say that from a dev team perspective, the only thing that we've been actively maintaining is the upstream README. So looking at the docs website versus looking at the README, I think they've kind of diverged quite a bit. So I think that is something that we have to keep track of. And I know that reading a huge README is kind of like not what a person wants to do. But with a project like this, that's not like, I think moving away from the, oh, this is so simple, you can run it in 30 minutes, is something that we're going to have to naturally do as the project progresses, because it's not how it works anymore. It's producing better data and better models in a longer period of time. So just from that perspective, I think doing some sort of sync between the README versus the docs is something, the doc website is something that probably has to happen. Because I know that the rapid pace of development on the README isn't going to slow down anytime soon, probably.
There's a Python project that I worked with like forever ago, but it was one where I found that the docs were just really, really good. And the one feature I really liked about it, I know a lot of places have it, but they make it so you can just view like different versions, but like it's still organized in the same way that we're doing the docs. And I think they also have like just straight up API docs as well. So this could be a format that we can mirror as well. But yeah, Charlie, I 100% agree with everything you've said. And I've also seen that like in other upstream communities, like I know with PyTorch and Hugging Face, like even their stuff will just be out of date. So it's not super uncommon.
It's a constant struggle in many open source projects, honestly. I would like to get to those people who have their hands raised. Ben, did you have something or?
No, I just put it in chat. I've
Okay.
got experience with the doc site. I'm happy to help out.
Perfect, thanks. Kelly?
So I think the biggest part with this is the difference between either if we want to like maintain the readmes with what Charlie was saying with the like constant development and then just sync it up to like a docs website or something, or if we want to have like the docs page be like the splash page, like the front page for like literally everything, and then the readmes in the libraries and in the other repos just be like a link to the docs page. Those are kind of just like I don't have like, we just didn't make that decision quite yet, because one is more of just like a, like what we were saying, a syncing, and that helps more with like the devs for the development side, where the other is you have to update. There's a lot of pros and cons with one or the other, because with one you have to update the docs page, but that makes it so it's just a one-stop shop for everything, and then you only have to update one thing, versus syncing it. And syncing it also kind of does the same thing, but it is more of like a copy, and then it updates as like, that's just the two different processes that I don't think we've made a decision on quite yet. And I wasn't sure if anyone had opinions on that.
And also, it's not just one repo, right? It's in the CLI, it's the community, it's probably something else that we might need to include at some point. So even if it talk about syncing, it's syncing multiple points. It's not just, so yeah, I agree. It's not, the decision of which way to go is not made. And also, I think if I remember correctly from last week's meeting, JDip mentioned that README should not be the one that contains all the information. It should be more like a pointer to then more detailed docs, whether it's on the doc site or somewhere else in the repo. So I think the structure of the document documentation for the different parts of the project needs to be first defined before we move further on syncing or whatever. So maybe we would leave this to JJ and Ali to sync on what's the best approach, and then you can come up with a proposal for for us to discuss and stuff. Yes, Kara.
We'll just want to make sure that the TMM team is part of that though too.
Yes. All right. I will be pinging them about attending this meeting as well as getting them involved in the discussion.
Thank you.
Should we use the Slack? Sorry, I think there's a docs channel on the InstructLab Slack, so maybe that would be a good place to meet. Cool. All right. Any more comments on this? If not, any other topics that we haven't discussed for today you'd like to bring up? If not, thank you everyone for your time and participation in these discussions. And looking forward to more progress in the project, and appreciate all your help. Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, all. See you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.